My name is Lindsey Valenzuela, and I'm a CrossFit and Olympic lifting athlete. I'm 29 years old, and I just had my son 8 months ago. He was born May 26th. So I'm officially just a couple of days over 8 months postpartum, and I started working with Bree, I would say specifically the last 3 months of my pregnancy, and then I started working with Julie and Bree combo, I would say the last month and a half, right? 2 months of my pregnancy together as a team. And then significantly through my postpartum journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of background about the level of competition that you're at. I think that would be an important.
Yeah. So going into my pregnancy, I was probably the fittest I had ever been. I've been doing CrossFit since early 2009. I made a game appearance, my first one in 2011, 2012, and then 2013 I was runner-up to fittest in the world. 2014 I missed the games we won't go there for some political reasons. And then 2015 I got 7th in the world, and then I knew for a long time it had been on my mind that I wanted to start a family. So my husband and I decided that we would start trying. We started practicing like immediately after the games. And then we found out we were pregnant, and I found out when I was 3 weeks pregnant. I just knew something was up, and my body felt off. I also had a major back injury, and I was supposed to go and do a pre-op the day after I found out I was pregnant via home pregnancy test. So I didn't do my back surgery clearly, and I just started PT, regular physical therapy for my back.
Right. And so just to kind of help everybody understand, the injury was you had herniated discs at L4, L5, and L5S1 that had occurred like a couple years before. You kind of managed it conservatively with cortisone and some chiropractic and the PT, right? And then it finally got to the point that you weren't able to walk because I
had significant sciatic pain in my hips. Which I had never had before with all the other years of just managing it with cortisone and epidural. And I knew it was kind of like, okay, it was the straw that broke the camel's back right before the games in 15. I just, started getting worse and worse. I got through the games, and then I took a couple of weeks off to get my gym together, and honestly couldn't really do anything after the games in 15. And I thought it got better just by taking rest and not really doing anything. And then I started training again. And then it blew, for better lack of phrase or words, it blew up. And I had to get an MRI again. And there's doctors telling me to, I need a full disc replacement, all that type of stuff. And I said, I'm only 28 at the time. And I said, I don't need a disc replacement. So that's not happening. And then my option was more cortisone and epidural. And I said, nah, I don't want to do that. I know that's just going to be a Band-Aid. So the doctor, who actually is a very good doctor, said, okay, let's do a microbisectomy. We're talking about millimeters. They said like a 0.5 millimeter. My disc is sitting on the sciatic nerve. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And so talk to us about a little bit about your path when you were pregnant, exercising, sort of working with Bree, applying the concepts, and then after, what was your experience with your back and with your pregnancy and
going into my pregnancy. I was just doing my normal PT for my back, the standard, just soft tissue work. I couldn't do any, stem or anything, obviously, with being pregnant. We did a lot of I would say lower abdominal work at the regular PT, but nothing too crazy because I was obviously pregnant. And they did a really good job where they managed my pain. So I was able to start, training a little bit, but really, not going to full depth on a squat, not pulling from the floor, a barbell from the floor, not picking up any equipment from the floor. Just, the same things I had been doing prior. So nothing really that I had been focusing, on the pelvic floor or anything, or maybe the way I was breathing was never brought up, because that's what we weren't focusing on that. To them, we were focusing on my back only.
Right.
And then, once I started working with you guys, it dawned on me, because you guys, the way you were educating me, that the pelvic floor could really have, coincide with my lower lumbar issues and stuff. So to me, as a lifter since I've been in high school, so you're talking about sophomore year, junior year, we're taught to hold our breath or use a weight belt. And I never thought of it as, and I was taught, okay, well, that's going to help you stabilize your lower lumbar, right? We're not talking about how it affects your abdominals and how your abdominals can affect your back. So it kind of came full circle of like, I just think like, I don't know, maybe for me, this is a weird kind of train of thought, but like God had me get injured right before my back to transition into focusing on my pelvic floor, to focus on my overall back health too. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. You're preaching to the choir. Like it's great. Like that's exactly what we'd love for you to have learned from this experience. And what we hope that the audience understands from this, that it's a piece of the puzzle and it's protective, and it helped actually with your back.
Yeah.
So,
I want to ask a question that's on the same page. So Lindsey, in your training before you were pregnant, and then up until we started working together, and you kind of started hearing some of the crazy stuff I would cue you with, how were you training? Like, I know you said you were taught to hold your breath and wear weight belts, but even during pregnancy, up until we started working together, what was your mindset like, and what was your training intensity, volume, and everything like?
So for me, like, going from like a super, super physical, like high impact to high intensity training 3 or 4 hours a day, and going into my pregnancy, I was done doing that. So I want everyone to know, like, I'm a different mind frame. I'm not a crazy person that goes into CrossFit thinking, okay, I'm pregnant, but I still got to CrossFit at high intensity and do burpees and muscle ups. I had no desire to even attempt a muscle up or a pull up or anything.
Yeah, I do have a follow up. So you have to, since you're in the CrossFit community, and obviously you're an athlete brain.
Yeah.
You are a rarity.
Yeah, so I would say I'm a rarity in the sport of fitness and CrossFit. Just the sense of, I went into my pregnancy. I think every CrossFit woman who does get pregnant, is very mindful of their baby, and it does apply. Do whatever you feel is comfortable for you specifically. For me, I wasn't comfortable getting up on the rings or getting up on the rig or doing box jumps or double unders. I had no desire to do that. One of them because I didn't feel comfortable for my body, and two, I had no desire to do that because I had done that at the top level and felt how taxing that was even when not pregnant. So sorry.
No, it's good. Oh, no, it's great. You had a baby.
Yeah.
Now we have proof.
He does exist.
Exists. And did you have another follow-up, Bree?
Well, I guess what made you want to make a switch to working with Julie and I in your third trimester?
Specifically, like, I didn't know what I was doing right or what I was doing wrong. I didn't know what I should and shouldn't be doing, considering all the health issues that I started having. And, I was kind of going into the gym just thinking, okay, well, I programmed this for the class and I can do that. But just my inner gut was telling me that there was more that I could do. But in terms of, they say hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And I wanted to make sure I was prepared for my recovery post delivery. And I didn't feel like I was I was fit enough to deliver. Like, that wasn't going to be an issue if I did a vaginal birth or whatever. That was game on. Like, if that happened, and C-section is hard to recover from. So I was game on for that. But I didn't know how to recover after that. I didn't know what I was going to get myself into, and I didn't know how to do it. And I knew I needed to have help for that. I don't know if that's a good answer. If that makes sense.
That's a great answer. Are you kidding? It's awesome. I wish everybody knew and could seek out. I mean, that's what we're hoping for, is to build an army of people that can meet.
Yeah, I think, it's hard. There's no guidance, and obviously we're trying to change that game a little bit more, and set a precedent that there is help and better information out there to resume the kind of movement and training you want to, but in a way that's like reasonable and going to sustain your long-term health and function.
Agreed. And so why don't we talk, Bree, is this okay, maybe okay to transition into the recovery? Yep. So when the first time I got to see you was at 34 weeks, and we measured you with an 8 centimeter diastasis at your navel.
That was huge. I think you guys should show a picture of me.
We probably will. We'll show a picture. And you had a pretty, what I want everyone to hear, it wasn't like you were doing like these crazy workouts prior to that point.
No.
You were doing reasonable workouts for a pregnant woman, and not at really the level that you were capable of. And part of the reason is because you had the history of the low back issues, but then you did start to develop some actual period. Yeah. So when we kind of got started, I think one of the other things that I want people to hear and understand for you, and the decisions that we made were that your goals, I wrote them down. Your goals were, so this was, you delivered May 26, and your goal was February 2017, which is right around the corner here, to be in the open. And so CrossFit Open is
26.
Right. And so the open was your first goal. And then the goal is to be in the top 20 so that you qualify for regionals, which is
May 26th is birthday.
Oh, no way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's symbolic. That's awesome. But what people need to understand is that your job is to be a professional athlete. Like, we need you to clean and jerk 255 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those were your, I would like an update, please, on where we are towards that number. But, well, tell us, where are you in terms of that number?
So my clean and jerk, I clean and jerk 235. So I'm 20 pounds underneath that. And then today I snatched 185 and barely missed 190. So I'm about, I would say 10, 15 pounds away from my previous 1 rep max. So that's pretty good.
That's amazing. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, and then
listening.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And so I before we get off, I would love to know your numbers, but we are about a month out, and those were our goals, were to try to be at those were your peak capacities before you got pregnant.
Right.
And before the injury really took kind of its toll. So, those were our goals, and those aren't normal physical therapy goals for a lot of pelvic health people with needs. And so we really, I think I wrote and there is a fourth person that should be here, and that's Jacob, who is Lindsey's CrossFit coach. So we kind of had what we felt like was a dream team of.
I think so.
Maybe you should be the one saying that, not me, but where we had me with the rehab perspective, Bree with the experience as a coach, and who could bridge that gap, because she and I had worked together and she understood that stuff. And then we had Jacob, who knows how to get an athlete ready at that level, who was awesome about being respectful of the process that you were in the midst of.
I mean, honestly, like, all three of you really meshed well. I think, like, you know, having those different aspects of, like, you from the PT and then Bree having the PT and knowledge as a coach of the two and being a mom, and then Jacob specifically CrossFit, and then like that kind of like triangle working together, you know, really helped make the process a lot easier and move a lot quicker. And I'm fortunate because I know not a lot of women have, or even athletes have that, you know, I guess, team in their corner, essentially.
Yeah.
So that I'm super thankful for. I think that, you know, I see other athletes kind of who've just had babies around the same time as me. And I'm just like, crap, like, you know, I've referred some of them to Bree, and I'm like, they're unfortunate to not have the knowledge of, you know, they may feel great, but they start pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing themselves, and then they start having more and more issues, and they don't understand why.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, like, what part of working with me or getting certain feedback and news from Julie was most frustrating for you as an athlete trying to make a significant comeback?
I think that I wanted to add, like, for me, it's always crunch time. Like, I knew I had a lot of goals I had to achieve, and a lot to achieve to get back to where I need to be in order to compete against the girls that I can compete against. So for me, the hard part was physically, obviously, but I'm not really any stranger to having to work really hard physically. But for me, it was the mental part of going through that transition of basically with an advanced mindset, but with a beginner body. Does that make sense? Like, I had this mindset of like, okay, well, I could do 5 muscle ups unbroken any day of the week, and I can't do one right now. Like, wasn't allowed to, or physically could not do one.
Right.
And everyone kept telling me, especially Bree, like, you're going to hit that 6 month postpartum mark, and you're going to start feeling more like yourself. And I was like, oh, it's 5 months and I still don't feel like myself, or it's 5 months, 3 weeks and 1 day and I still don't feel like myself. And then all of a sudden 6 months hit, and I was like, holy crap, like, all the stuff, like, we had been transitioning every week, started building up onto each other and building up and building up and building up. And then everything started to, all these puzzle pieces started to make this one big puzzle come together. So for me, it was mentally just being patient with my body and letting my body catch up back to my mind, and then them two coming together, I think.
Great.
That should be a bumper sticker. Advanced mind with a beginner body. I mean, but that's really what most women experience, but they don't really necessarily have the guidance to help them find their way back to that. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated about Jacob in the midst of this is because you did have a diastasis that lingered postpartum, and that meant that you weren't going to be able to contain pressure. Like, we needed to heal that. And if we pushed you too hard, but we had to push you, like, we had to allow you to, like, I actually had an email here. I was looking at your chart and I said something along the lines to everybody, we're walking this fine line, like, between not enough challenge to get her ready for her goals. Like, you had to be able to do muscle ups. Like, that was a requirement. And we couldn't make your diastasis worse because it was actually going to reduce your ability to perform the muscle up. Like, we had to walk this really fine line, which was frustrating for everybody. Like, we all were trying, but with Jacob, the problems that he saw in your form were actually the same problems that I saw from a pelvic health perspective. And so and for your low back, like, the things that I wanted to change to promote your pelvic health and protect it and promote the diastasis healing and get more glutes on board for your back. Those are the things Jacob had already seen in your form, and he wanted to change. And actually, I love that those things go together. Good form.
Like, and he's still trying to fix it. I mean, you have to remember, like, you know, this is since I started in 2009, that many years of bad habits that I need to fix. And I think I've fixed a lot of them, but I still catch myself, which is good. I catch myself thinking, oh, wait, I didn't, that form wasn't great. I have to focus on that. Or my breathing isn't great. I got to focus on that. And honestly, like with CrossFit, the problem is with a lot of your form under fatigue and trying to go all out, your form after a few reps does go out the window. So how long can you be efficient for in good form under fatigue? And I wanted to make sure as an athlete I came back and was better with my form. And I think I'm better. I think I still have to get a little bit more better. So I'm still striving to get better, I think.
Well, that's good.
And do you feel that like with the piston breathing and implementing that into your movement patterns and then implementing it into your movement patterns under load, do you feel more explosive and do you feel more like basically like more coordinated with it? Yeah, we had some of those conversations.
So the one thing that I noticed was, coming out of my squats with the piston breathing, I felt way more explosive. And right now I'm actually trying to incorporate that in pistols, which is a single leg squat. It's a little bit more difficult just because like the rapid moving from side to side movement and you're loading one side of your body more than other. But the moments that I do feel the piston breathing and that movement, I feel like I'm more explosive out of the bottom. So now
that's awesome. So if you could, and then I also just want to let everybody know, you got to go to the games. Like that's July.
My goal is to get back there. My goal this year was, make it top 20 in the Open, which is a online worldwide event, and from the top 20 in your region you go to regionals, which the top 5 out of 40 women. And SoCal, of course, I picked somewhere to live, which is the most competitive region for women. We always a number of us always are in the top 10 in the world, so that's unheard of for a lot of the regions around the world. But and then from the regionals, top 5 go to the games. From the games, it's just pure work and how long you can last through a pretty heavy loaded weekend. So my goal this year was to make it through the Open and then get to regionals, and whatever happens at regionals happens. But my ultimate goal is to make sure my son sees me back at the games and on the podium in some fashion. So